Admiral Lexver looked at the blue planet on his screen and felt bored. This was going to be easy. Too easy. The third planet of this yellow star system had no space fleet. No energy shields, no plasma weapons, just a bunch of hairless apes. With metal ships that burned chemical fuel. He had done this 847 times before. Always the same. His fleet would arrive. The primitive species would panic. They would surrender or die. Then the Valkyrie Empire would take their world and add it to the collection. "Sir, we have reached the edge of their star system," said his second-in-command. "Shall we begin the standard approach?" Dexver waved a clawed hand. "Yes, yes." "Send the surrender message in their primitive languages. Give them 1 of their hours to respond. Then we destroy their military and take the planet." The admiral walked to the window of his flagship. 2,000 Valkyrie warships stretched out before him like deadly flowers in space. Each ship could destroy a continent. Together, they could burn the surface of 10 worlds. This human planet would fall in minutes. On Earth, Captain Yoon Dae-yoon was drinking coffee when the alarms started screaming. He dropped his cup and ran to the command center. Red lights flashed everywhere. People shouted numbers and coordinates. The main screen showed dots. Lots and lots of dots. "How many?" he asked. 2,000 ships, sir, maybe more. They appeared at the edge of the solar system 20 minutes ago. Yoon Dae-yoon felt his stomach drop. Earth had been preparing for this day for 30 years. Ever since the crash in the desert. Ever since they found the alien scout ship and learned they were not alone. But 2,000 ships? That was more than they had planned for. "Get me Commander Park Min-hee," he said. Park Min-hee was in a secret base under a mountain in Korea. She had been waiting for this call her whole life. When her phone rang, she already knew what it meant. "They're here," said Yoon Dae-yoon's voice. "How many?" 2,000. Park Min-hee closed her eyes. She had hoped for fewer. But it didn't matter now. Activate Prometheus Protocol. All stations. Tell everyone this is not a drill. Around the world, hidden bases came alive. Secret projects that had been sleeping for decades powered up. Weapons that shouldn't exist charged their energy cores. And deep in space, near the moon, things that looked like asteroids began to move. The Valkyrie message reached Earth 30 minutes after the fleet arrived. It played on every television and radio on the planet. The voice was cold and mechanical. "Humans of the third planet, you will surrender now. Your military will land their weapons and wait for processing. Your leaders will come to our ships. You have 1 hour. If you refuse, we will destroy your cities and take your world by force. This is your only warning." In the command center, Yoon Dae-yoon looked at his officers. They looked scared. He was scared too. But they had prepared for this. "Send our response," he said. The message that went back to the Valkyrie fleet was short. Just 3 words in perfect Valkyrie language. "Come and take it." Admiral Lexver blinked his large eyes when he heard the response. In 847 conquests, no primitive species had ever said no. They always begged, always offered their treasures, always tried to make deals. "Sir, should we begin the attack?" asked his second-in-command. "Wait, check our intelligence again. Are we sure these humans are primitive?" The intelligence officer checked his files. "Yes, sir, they have chemical rockets, nuclear weapons from splitting atoms, no energy shields, no plasma technology. Their fastest ships take months to reach their own moon." Lexver nodded. The humans were just being stupid. They would learn. "Begin the attack, destroy their moon base first, show them our power." The Valkyrie fleet moved forward. Their ships were beautiful and terrible, silver hulls that could survive the heat of stars. Weapons that could cut planets in half. Shields that could stop any attack these humans might try, but as they approached the inner system, something strange happened. The space around them began to change. What looked like empty space suddenly wasn't empty anymore. Lieutenant Kim Jin-hoon had been waiting near Jupiter for 6 hours. His ship looked like a piece of space junk. Old metal and broken parts welded together. But inside, it was something else entirely. Technology that came from the crashed scout ship. Technology that the aliens had lost and forgotten about. "Oh. Units, this is Ghost Leader," he said into his radio. "The enemy is moving toward Earth. Begin Phase 1. Around the solar system, more ships that looked like junk began to move. They had been hiding for years, waiting, learning, getting ready. The first Valkyrie ship died without knowing what hit it. One moment it was flying toward the inner planets. The next moment it simply wasn't there anymore. No explosion. No debris. Just gone, then another ship vanished, then 10 more. "What's happening?" shouted Admiral Dexfer. "Report!" "Sir, we're losing ships. Something is attacking us, but we can't see what." "Impossible. These humans don't have cloaking technology." But they did. Dr. Lee Soo-yoon had spent 15 years figuring out how the alien scout ship had stayed invisible. She had made it better. Much better. Kim Jun-ho's fighter appeared right next to a Valkyrie battleship. For just a moment, the alien crew could see him through their windows. A small human ship that shouldn't exist. Then his weapons fired. The beam that came from the human ship was not like anything in Valkyrie databases. It didn't just punch through their shields. It made their shields disappear. The beam cut through the battleship's hull like it was made of paper. More human ships appeared. They moved like dancers, spinning and diving between the massive Valkyrie vessels. Their weapons fired again and again. Each shot destroyed or crippled an enemy ship. "Sir, we've lost 300 ships in 10 minutes, reported the intelligence officer. His voice was shaking. Admiral Dexver stared at the screen. This was impossible. These humans were supposed to be primitive. They were supposed to surrender or die quickly. They weren't supposed to have weapons that could destroy Valkyrie warships. "Pull back," he ordered. "All ships retreat to the outer system. We need to regroup and analyze this." As the surviving Valkyrie ships fled, Kim Jun-ho smiled. Inside his helmet, Phase 1 was complete. The aliens now knew that Earth would not be easy to take. But they didn't know the real surprise yet. They didn't know that humanity had been preparing for this war for 30 years. They didn't know about the weapons hidden on every planet and moon. They didn't know that the crashed scout ship had taught humans more than just how to build better engines and shields. It had taught them how to think like their enemies and how to beat them. The war for Earth had begun, but it would not end the way the Valkyrie Empire expected. Admiral Dexver paced back and forth on his ship's bridge. His claws clicked on the metal floor. 300 ships, gone in 10 minutes. This had never happened before in the history of the Valkyrie Empire. "Show me the attack recordings again," he ordered. The holographic display showed the battle from different angles. Human ships appeared from nowhere. They fired weapons that shouldn't exist. Then they vanished again like ghosts. "Analysis?" he asked his science officer. "The human weapons appear to use focused quantum energy. The technology is ... more advanced than our own, but that's impossible, sir. Our scouts reported they were primitive." Dexver's large eyes narrowed. "When was our last scout mission to this system?" 37 of their years ago, sir. 37 years. Dexver stopped pacing. Could they have advanced this much in 37 years? No known species develops that quickly, sir. It usually takes thousands of years to go from chemical rockets to quantum weapons. But the evidence was right there on the screen. The humans had done exactly that. Or had they? On Earth's moon, Dr. Lee Soo-yoon watched the Valkyrie fleet regroup near Pluto. The aliens were confused. Good. Confusion was a weapon too. "Dr. Lee," said a voice behind her. She turned to see Captain Yoon Dae-yeon walking into the Lunar Command Center. "The first phase worked perfectly. How long until they figure out what we're really doing?" "Not long," she replied. "They're smart. They'll realize we couldn't have developed this technology on our own. Then they'll start looking for the real source." Yoon Dae-yeon nodded. 30 years ago, a Valkyrie scout ship had crashed in the Gobi Desert. The alien inside was dead, but his ship was full of technology that Earth scientists had never imagined. For 3 decades, the world's best minds had worked together in secret to understand it. They couldn't copy everything. Some alien technology was too advanced, but they could copy enough. And more importantly, they could improve on what they copied. The enemy is moving again, reported Lieutenant Kim Jun-ho from his hidden position near Neptune. It looks like they're coming in smaller groups this time. Admiral Vexver had learned from his first mistake. Instead of sending his whole fleet at once, he split it into hunting groups. Each group had 50 ships. They would move carefully. Watch for traps, fight smarter. Remember, he told his captains over the communication system, these humans have cloaking technology and advanced weapons, but they're still primitive in tactics. They think like animals, not soldiers, be ready for anything. The first hunting group moved toward Mars. They expected the humans to hide behind the planet and ambush them. Instead, they found something else entirely. Captain Han Ji-woo had been waiting underwater in Earth's Pacific Ocean for 6 hours. His submarine was not like the submarines that most humans knew about. This one could travel through space as easily as through water. When the Valkyrie hunting group passed over Earth's North Pole, Han Ji-woo launched. His submarine shot up through the atmosphere and into space in less than 2 minutes. The aliens never saw it coming. Target acquired, he said calmly. Firing quantum torpedoes. The weapons that came from Han Ji-woo's submarine were invisible until they hit. They passed right through the Valkyrie shields like the shields weren't there. 5 alien ships exploded in bright flashes of light. Where did that come from? Shouted the Valkyrie group leader. His sensors showed nothing. The attack had come from below, from the direction of Earth, but Earth was supposed to be defenseless. Their intelligence said the humans had no orbital weapons. Han Ji-woo's submarine was already gone, diving back toward Earth's ocean. But more submarines were rising from different parts of the planet. The aliens found themselves under attack from every direction. The second hunting group tried to hide behind Mars. That was a mistake. Major Choi Yun-ho had been living on Mars for 2 years. Not on the surface where anyone could see him, but deep underground in tunnels that looked natural but weren't. Mars had been hollowed out and turned into a fortress. Enemy group approaching from Galactic North, he reported to Earth Command. 50 ships. They think they're being clever by using Mars as cover. Permission to engage, came the reply. Understood. Firing planetary defense system. What looked like ordinary Martian mountains suddenly opened up. Massive weapons emerged from the planet's surface. They had been built into the rock itself. Invisible from space until they fired, the quantum artillery beams reached across millions of kilometers in seconds. The Valkyrie ships had good shields, but not good enough. Not against weapons that used the planet's own magnetic field to focus their energy. 15 alien ships died in the first volley. The rest tried to run, but more. Weapons fired from Mars's moons. From asteroids that weren't really asteroids. From hidden bases that had been waiting for this moment for years. Admiral Vexver watched his hunting groups get destroyed one by one. The humans weren't fighting like any enemy he had ever faced. They didn't have big fleets or massive bases. Instead, they had turned their entire solar system into a weapon. "Sir," said his intelligence officer, "I'm detecting human activity near Jupiter." "What kind of activity?" "Unknown. The readings are ... strange. It's like the planet itself is moving." "That was impossible. Planets didn't move." But the sensors didn't lie. Something was happening near the giant gas planet. Engineer Kang Hyeri floated in zero gravity inside a space station hidden in Jupiter's clouds. Around her, dozens of other engineers worked on the biggest project in human history. They were building something that had never been built before. Something that would change the war completely. "How much longer?" asked Commander Park Min-hee. Over the radio. 6 hours, replied Kang Hyeri. "Maybe less if we skip the safety tests." "Skip them. We need this weapon operational now." Kang Hyeri nodded. Safety tests were a luxury they couldn't afford. The Valkyrie still had over 1,500 ships. Earth needed every advantage it could get. The third Valkyrie hunting group approached Earth directly. Their leader was confident. The humans had surprised them with hidden weapons and cloaking technology, but they were still just one primitive planet. The Valkyrie Empire had conquered worlds with billions of soldiers and fleets. Of warships, how dangerous could one small blue planet be? He found out when the planet shot back. Dr. Song Myray had spent 5 years turning Earth's magnetic field into a weapon. It had seemed impossible at first. Planets weren't weapons. They were just big rocks floating in space. But Earth wasn't just a rock. It had a molten iron core that created a powerful magnetic field. With the right technology, that field could be focused, controlled, turned into something deadly. Firing planetary defense grid. She announced from the command center in Antarctica. Around Earth, hidden installations activated. They used the planet's own rotation to aim massive energy beams at the approaching Valkyrie ships. The aliens' shields were designed to stop normal weapons. They weren't designed to stop an entire planet. The Valkyrie hunting group simply vanished. Not destroyed in explosions, but completely erased by energy beams that used physics the aliens didn't understand. Admiral Vexver stared at his tactical display. In 6 hours he had lost 800 ships, more than half his fleet. The humans hadn't just surprised him. They had completely outmatched him. "Sir," said his second-in-command quietly, "perhaps we should retreat. Call for reinforcements." Vexver's pride hurt more than his losses. The Valkyrie Empire did not retreat from primitive worlds. But these humans weren't primitive anymore, if they ever had been. "No," he said finally, "we finish this. All remaining ships converge on the human homeworld. Full attack formation, we end this now." It was exactly what the humans had been waiting for. The remaining 1,200 Valkyrie ships formed a massive attack formation as they approached Earth. Admiral Vexver had decided to end this war with overwhelming force. No more small groups, no more careful tactics. Just raw power that would crush the human resistance once and for all. "All ships, maintain formation," he ordered. "Focus all fire on their homeworld. We will burn their planet until nothing moves." But as the Valkyrie fleet moved through the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, they walked into a trap that had been 30 years in the making. Captain HFY's submarine wasn't alone anymore. Hundreds of vessels that looked like space. Debris floated silently among the asteroids. Some were disguised as rocks. Others looked like broken satellites or old rocket parts. All of them were weapons. "This is Ghost Fleet Command," Hajiwu said into his radio. "All units, execute Operation Swarm." The asteroid belt came alive. What the Valkyrie had thought was empty space suddenly filled with human ships. They appeared from every direction, moving in patterns that made no sense to alien tactical computers. The Valkyrie formation tried to respond, but they had been built for fighting other fleets in open space. They weren't ready for enemies that attacked like a school of fish, appearing and disappearing in seemingly random patterns. Lieutenant Kim Junho's fighter dove between two massive alien battleships. His quantum weapons carved through their hulls. Like a knife through cloth? Before the aliens could target him, he vanished behind a spinning asteroid and appeared somewhere else entirely. "Target their command ships first," ordered Major Choi Yun-ho from his hidden base on Ceres. "Cut off their communication." The human attack was chaos to Valkyrie eyes, but it followed a careful plan. Every move had been practiced. Every tactic had been tested. While the aliens tried to maintain their organized formation, the humans flowed around them like water around rocks. Admiral Vexver watched his fleet dissolve into confusion. "All ships, break formation, engage individually. Don't let them surround you." But it was too late for that. The humans weren't trying to surround the Valkyrie fleet. They were trying to scatter it. Drive the alien ships apart so they couldn't support each other. Engineer Kang Hyeri's cloaking technology was the key to everything. Her improved version of alien stealth systems didn't just make human ships invisible. It made them impossible to track even when they fired their weapons. "How are they doing this?" demanded Dexver's science officer. "Our sensors show weapons fire, but no ships. Unknown, sir. Their cloaking technology is beyond our understanding." That was the most frightening thing of all. The Valkyrie Empire had always won through superior technology. But these humans had taken Valkyrie science and made it better. Much better. In the middle of the battle, something even stranger happened. The asteroids themselves began to move. Dr. Lee Soo-yoon had spent years preparing for this moment. Hidden inside hundreds of space rocks were human-built engines and guidance systems. What looked like a natural asteroid belt was actually a massive weapon waiting to be activated. Fire control. This is asteroid command, she said from her hidden base on Vesta. Beginning kinetic bombardment sequence. Rocks the size of buildings began flying toward the Valkyrie ships at incredible speeds. The aliens' energy shields could stop plasma beams and missile explosions, but they weren't designed to stop solid objects moving at thousands of kilometers per second. A battleship the size of a city was crushed by an asteroid, no bigger than a house. The rock hit so hard it passed completely through the ship and kept going. Another Valkyrie vessel tried to dodge but ran straight into 3 more rocks that had been aimed to cut off its escape route. "This is impossible," whispered Dexfer, second in command. "They've turned the entire asteroid belt into a weapon." The admiral said nothing. He was beginning to understand something terrible. The humans hadn't just been preparing for war. They had been preparing for this specific war. Against this specific enemy? They knew exactly how Valkyrie ships moved, how their weapons worked, how their tactics operated. It was as if the humans had been studying the Valkyrie Empire for decades. Commander Park Min-hee watched the battle from her command center. Deep under the Korean mountains, everything was going according to plan. The Valkyrie fleet was scattered and confused. Their numbers were dropping rapidly, but she knew this was just the beginning. The real test would come when the aliens realized they were losing and tried something desperate. "Ma'am," said one of her officers, "the enemy flagship is moving toward Earth. It looks like they're trying to break through our defenses for a direct attack on the planet." Park Min-hee smiled. "Let them come. It's time for Phase 3. Admiral Dexver's flagship was the most powerful ship in the Valkyrie fleet. Its weapons could crack a planet's crust. Its shields could survive inside a star. If he could reach Earth and threaten the human homeworld directly, maybe they would finally surrender. "All power to engines," he ordered. "Ignore the smaller ships. Head straight for their planet." The massive vessel smashed through the human defensive line like a battering ram. Smaller ships bounced off its shields. Even the quantum weapons that had destroyed so many other Valkyrie vessels barely scratched its armor, but as the flagship approached Earth, it encountered something new. Captain Oh Seung-jin had been waiting in orbit around Earth's moon for hours. His ship wasn't hidden like the others. It sat in plain sight, looking like nothing special. Just another human vessel with crude chemical engines and primitive weapons. That was exactly what Dexfer wanted the aliens to think. "Enemy flagship approaching," reported Oh Seung-jin's tactical officer. "Range, 50,000 kilometers and closing," acknowledged, charging main weapon. The ship that looked primitive on the outside was anything but primitive inside. Oh Seung-jin's vessel was a testbed for humanity's most advanced technology. Weapons that pushed the laws of physics to their breaking point. "Sir, they're firing," said the tactical officer. The Valkyrie flagship's main cannon could destroy a moon. The energy beam that came from its front weapons array was brighter than a small sun. It should have vaporized Oh Seung-jin's ship instantly. Instead, something impossible happened. The beam curved around the human vessel like water flowing around a stone. "What?" Admiral Dexfer stared at his screen. "That's impossible. Energy beams don't curve." But this one did. Dr. Song Murray's gravitational manipulation technology didn't just bend space around the human ship. It bent space in ways that made enemy weapons miss completely. Oh Seung-jin's return fire was much smaller than the Valkyrie beam. Just a thin line of focused energy that looked almost harmless. But when it hit the alien flagship's shields, something strange happened. The shields didn't explode or overload. They simply stopped working. The energy beam passed right through them and struck the ship's hull. "Shields are down," reported Dexver's engineering officer. "I don't understand how. The weapon shouldn't have been powerful enough. The human beam hadn't overpowered the shields. It had turned them off. Found the exact frequency that made Valkyrie. Shield generators shut down and fed that frequency back to them. more human ships appeared around the crippled flagship. They didn't look dangerous. Small fighters and converted cargo vessels, but each one carried weapons that could hurt even the mighty Valkyrie command ship. "Sir, we're taking heavy damage," reported the engineering officer. "Hull breaches on multiple decks. We're losing atmosphere." Admiral Vexver looked around his bridge. Half his crew was injured or dead. His mighty flagship was being torn apart by primitive humans in ships that looked like they were built in junkyards. "How many ships do we have left?" he asked quietly. 400, sir." "Maybe less, 400 ships. From a fleet of 2,000? In less than a day, the humans had destroyed more Valkyrie vessels than the Empire had lost in its entire history of conquest. "Sir," said his communication officer, "we're receiving a message from the humans. Put it on screen." The image that appeared was of a human woman in a simple military uniform. She looked calm and confident. Behind her, Vexver could see what looked like a command center full of humans working at control stations. "Admiral Vexver," she said in perfect Valkyrie language. "My name is Commander Park Min-hee of the Earth Defense Force. I believe we need to talk." The Admiral's large eyes widened. "How do you know my name? How do you speak our language?" "Park." Min-hee smiled. "We know many things about the Valkyrie Empire, Admiral. We've been studying you for 30 years. Ever since one of your scout ships crashed on our world and we learned we weren't alone in the universe." The truth hit Dexver like a physical blow. 30 years ago. The scout ship that never returned. The one they assumed had been destroyed by an asteroid or mechanical failure. It had crashed on Earth, and the humans had been preparing for this invasion ever since. "What do you want?" he asked. "Your surrender," Park Min-hee replied simply. "You came here to conquer our world. Instead, we're going to show you what happens when you underestimate humanity." Admiral Vexver stared at the human woman on his screen. Surrender? The Valkyrie Empire had never surrendered to anyone. They were the conquerors of 847 worlds. They did not bow to primitive species from the edge of the galaxy. "You ask for something?" "Impossible," he said, his voice cold with anger. "The Valkyrie do not surrender. We would rather die." Commander Park Min-hee nodded as if she had expected this answer. "I thought you might say that." "Very well, Admiral. Let me show you what your pride will cost." The communication ended. Vexver turned to his weapons officer. "Charge the planet. Killer, if we cannot conquer this world, we will destroy it completely." The planet killer was the Valkyrie Empire's most feared weapon. A massive energy beam that could crack a world's crust and boil its oceans. It had ended resistance on dozens of worlds. No species could survive its power. The weapon needed 10 minutes to charge. As energy built up in the flagship's core, Admiral Vexver felt his confidence returning. The humans were clever, but they were still bound by the laws of physics. No shield could stop a planet killer beam. On Earth, warning alarms sounded in every command center. Dr. Song Murray looked at her instruments and felt her heart skip a beat. The energy readings from the Valkyrie flagship were off the charts. "They're charging a planet killer," she reported to Commander Park Min-hee. "Estimated power, enough to destroy the entire planet." Park Min-hee was quiet for a long moment. "Then," she smiled. "Perfect. Execute Operation Mirror." Dr. Song Murray had been waiting for this order for 5 years. Operation Mirror was the most dangerous thing humanity had ever attempted. It required perfect timing and incredible precision. One small mistake would destroy Earth just as surely as the alien weapon. "All stations, this is Mirror Command," she announced. "Begin planetary alignment sequence." Around the world, hidden installations came online. Massive machines buried deep in the Earth's crust began to hum with power. Satellites in orbit adjusted their positions. Even the space station orbiting the moon changed course slightly. What Dr. Song Murray was attempting had never been tried before. She was going to turn the entire planet Earth into a weapon. "Mirror Command, this is Deep Core Station," reported a voice from beneath the Pacific Ocean. "Magnetic field generators are online. We're ready to begin." "Orbital Command reporting," came another voice from space. "Satellite network is in position." Gravitational lens is aligned? Dr. Song Murray took a deep breath. All stations begin charging sequence. We have 8 minutes until the enemy fires. The plan was insane. Instead of trying to stop the planet killer beam, they were going to let it hit Earth, but they weren't going to let it destroy the planet. They were going to catch it, focus it, and send it back where it came from. Admiral Vexfer watched the energy readings. Climb on his flagship's planet killer. 7 minutes to full charge. The humans below seemed to be doing something, but his sensors couldn't figure out what. Strange energy patterns were building all over their planet. "Sir," said his science officer, "I'm detecting massive energy buildup on the human world. It's like their entire planet is becoming some kind of weapon." "Impossible," Vexver replied. "Planets don't work that way." But the sensor readings didn't lie. Earth's magnetic field was changing, strengthening, focusing into patterns that shouldn't be possible. It was as if the humans were using their own world as a giant machine. Engineer. Kang Hyeri floated in her secret station near Jupiter, watching the battle on her screens. Operation Mirror was the riskiest thing humanity had ever tried. If it failed, Earth would be destroyed. If it succeeded, the war would be over. "Mirror Command, this is Jupiter Station," she reported. "Gravitational amplifiers are ready." Standing by for signal bounce. The plan required perfect coordination across the entire solar system. Earth would catch the planet killer beam and focus it using the planet's magnetic field. Then they would bounce it off Jupiter's gravity well to amplify its power even more. Finally, they would send it back at the Valkyrie fleet with enough force to destroy them all. 5 minutes to enemy weapon discharge," announced Dr. Song Murray. "All stations report ready." Beginning final alignment. Around Earth, the sky began to glow. The planet's magnetic field was visible now, shimmering like the aurora borealis, but covering the entire world. To anyone watching from space, it looked like Earth had become a giant glowing jewel. Commander Nam Taeyong watched from his command post on Mars. His job was to coordinate the final attack after Operation Mirror succeeded, if it succeeded. If it failed, there wouldn't be anyone left to coordinate. "Mars command to all units," he said into his radio. "Enemy weapon fires in 3 minutes. Take positions for final assault. This is our last chance." Hidden throughout the solar system, the remaining human forces prepared for battle. Ships disguised as asteroids, weapons built into moons. Fighters hiding in the gas clouds of the outer planets. If Operation Mirror worked, they would finish what it started. Admiral Vexver felt satisfaction as his planet killer reached full charge. The weapon contained enough energy to destroy a dozen worlds. No matter what tricks the humans had, they couldn't survive this. "Target locked on their primary continent," reported his weapons officer. "Ready to fire on your command." "Fire?" said Dexve Ardut. The beam that came from the Valkyrie flagship was brighter than a star. It crossed the space between the alien fleet and Earth in seconds, carrying enough energy to crack the planet like an egg. But instead of destroying Earth, something incredible happened. The planet caught the beam. Earth's magnetic field, focused and strengthened by human technology, wrapped around the deadly energy like a giant hand. The beam that should have destroyed everything was held, contained, and redirected. "Impossible," whispered Admiral Exfer. "What are they doing?" What they were doing was using Earth itself as a focusing lens. The planet's rotation spun the captured energy faster and faster. The magnetic field compressed it, making it more powerful. Then, at exactly the right moment, Dr. Song Murray released it. The beam that left Earth was 10 times more powerful than the one the Valkyrie had fired. It shot toward Jupiter, where engineer Kang Hyeri's gravitational amplifiers caught it and made it even stronger. Then it bounced back toward the Valkyrie fleet like a cosmic billiard ball. Admiral Vexfer had just enough time to see death coming before it arrived. The returned beam didn't just destroy the Valkyrie flagship. It vaporized it completely, along with 50 other ships that were too close. The energy wave kept going, washing over the scattered alien fleet like a tsunami of pure destruction. Ship after ship simply vanished. The most powerful fleet in Valkyrie history was being erased by their own weapon, turned against them by a species they had thought was primitive. "All ships retreat," screamed Vexver's second in command from a surviving vessel. "Emergency jump to hyperspace." But Commander Nam Tae-young had been waiting for this moment. As the surviving Valkyrie ships tried to escape, human forces attacked from every direction. The aliens were scattered, damaged, and panicking. Perfect targets. "All units, execute final assault," ordered Nam Tae-young. "Don't let any of them escape." The battle that followed was less a fight than a hunt. Human ships that had been hiding throughout the solar system emerged to chase down the fleeing aliens. Some Valkyrie vessels were destroyed by quantum weapons. Others were disabled and captured. A few managed to reach the edge of the solar system, but even they found human ships waiting for them. In 30 minutes, it was over. Of the 2,000 ships that had come to conquer Earth, only 17 remained. They sat dead in space at the edge of the solar system, their engines disabled, their weapons offline, but they weren't empty. Captain Baek Jeong floated in the zero gravity of what had once been Admiral HFY's flagship. Around her, human soldiers in advanced spacesuits were taking control of the alien vessel. The Valkyrie crew was gone, replaced by humans who knew how to operate their technology. "Control, this is boarding team Alpha," she reported. "Ship is secure. All alien crew have been relocated. We're ready to proceed with Phase 4. Commander Park Min-hee's voice crackled over the radio. "Understood, Captain. Begin final preparations. Make sure those ships look exactly like they did when they arrived." Baek Jeong smiled inside her helmet. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. But now humanity would be the ones doing the invading. The 17 ships that prepared to leave Earth's solar system looked exactly like Valkyrie vessels. Their hulls showed the right amount of battle damage. Their transponders broadcast the correct identification codes. Even their flight patterns matched standard Valkyrie tactics, but inside each ship, human crews worked at alien control stations. And in the cargo holds, instead of Valkyrie soldiers, there were human colonists, human weapons, and human determination to make sure no other world suffered what Earth had almost suffered. The hunters had become the hunted. But the real hunt was just beginning. The 17 surviving Valkyrie ships hung motionless at the edge of Earth's solar system. To any observer, they looked like the broken remnants of a once mighty fleet. Battle damage scarred their hulls. Their energy signatures showed systems running on emergency power. They appeared to be exactly what they claimed to be, the last survivors of a failed invasion. But appearances could be deceiving. Inside the largest ship, Captain Baek Jeong stood on what had once been Admiral HFY's bridge. The alien control panels glowed with strange symbols, but her crew had learned to read them during months of preparation. Every human on the bridge wore a Valkyrie uniform taken from the original crew. "Status report," she said in perfect Valkyrie language. "All ships ready for departure," replied Lieutenant Len Yaman, who was disguised as a Valkyrie communications officer. "Crews are in position. The real Valkyrie are secure in the holding cells." Baek Jeong nodded. "The original alien crews weren't dead. That would have been wasteful. Instead, they were prisoners, locked away in shielded compartments where they couldn't interfere or call for help. They would be useful later." "Commander Park, this is Ghost Fleet," she reported to Earth Command. "All ships ready for Operation Trojan Horse, awaiting final authorization." Commander Park Min-hee's voice came through the communication system. "Authorization granted, Captain. Show the galaxy what happens when you threaten Earth." The 17 ships began moving toward the jump point that would take them out of the solar system. To Valkyrie sensors watching from other star systems, it would look like the survivors of a defeated fleet limping home to report their failure. They had no idea they were actually carrying Earth's revenge. Agent Lim Yuman had spent 2 years learning to think like a Valkyrie. He studied their language, their customs, their military procedures. He even had surgery to make his face look more alien when viewed on low-resolution screens. Now he sat at the communication station of a captured battleship, ready to play the Most important role of his life. Approaching jump coordinates, reported the human pilot, who was disguised as a Valkyrie navigator. Ready for hyperspace transition? All ships execute jump, ordered Captain Beek Jeong. The 17 ships vanished from normal space in flashes of twisted light. Behind them, Earth's solar system returned to its normal appearance. The battle debris was already being cleaned up. The hidden weapons were powering down. To any casual observer, it looked like a quiet system with nothing interesting happening, but deep in the command bunkers under Earth's surface, the real work was just beginning. Dr. Lee Seung looked at the star charts on her screen. Each point of light represented a world conquered by the Valkyrie Empire. Billions of beings enslaved or killed. Entire civilizations wiped out because they couldn't defend themselves. How many? Asked Commander Park Min-hee. 847 worlds under direct Valkyrie control, Dr. Lee replied. Plus another 300 systems that pay tribute to avoid invasion. The Empire controls roughly 40% of this galaxy's inhabited worlds. Park Min-hee was quiet for a long moment. And now they're going to learn what it feels like to be on the receiving end. The 17 ships traveled through hyperspace for 6 days before reaching their destination. When they dropped back into normal space, they were at the edge of the Valkyrie home system. Ancient space stations orbited the outer planets. Massive defense platforms guarded the approaches to the inner worlds, and everywhere, Valkyrie warships patrolled in perfect formations. "This is Home Fleet Command," came a transmission in the Valkyrie language. "Identify yourselves and state your purpose." Agent Lim Yeoman took a deep breath. This was the moment that would determine if Operation Trojan Horse succeeded or failed. If the Valkyrie suspected anything, all 17 ships would be destroyed before they could complete their mission. Home Fleet Command, this is Admiral Thexver's expedition returning from the conquest of System 847C. He replied using the Valkyrie designation for Earth's solar system. We request immediate docking for debriefing and medical attention. There was a pause. Lim Yeoman held his breath. If the Valkyrie checked their records too carefully, they would discover that Admiral Thexver's fleet should have had 2,000 ships, not 17. Acknowledged Expedition Fleet. You are cleared for approach to Homeworld Station. Bay assignments will be transmitted shortly, Lim Yeoman smiled. The first part of their deception had worked, but the real test was still to come. Captain Oh Sung-jin commanded the smallest of the 17 ships. His vessel carried the most dangerous cargo of all, not weapons or soldiers but information. Hidden in the ship's computer systems was every piece of data that Earth had gathered about the Valkyrie Empire. Military codes, fleet positions, planetary defenses, trade routes. Everything humanity needed to bring down an empire. Approaching Docking Bay 7, reported his pilot. Valkyrie station personnel are preparing to board for inspection. Understood. Remember, everyone stays in character until I give the signal. We're survivors of a difficult battle. We're tired, hurt, and eager to get home. The human crew members slumped in their chairs and made themselves look exhausted. Some applied fake injuries using makeup and prosthetics. When the Valkyrie inspectors came aboard, they would see exactly what they expected. The crew of a battered warship returning from a hard campaign. The docking process took 2 hours. Valkyrie technicians swarmed over the 17 ships, checking their systems and downloading their sensor logs. If they looked too carefully at those logs, they would find records of a battle that never happened the way it appeared, but the logs had been carefully crafted by Earth's best computer experts. They showed the human solar system as primitive and defenseless. They showed a quick, easy conquest with minimal resistance. They showed Admiral Thexver's fleet destroying human cities and accepting the planet's surrender. They showed exactly what the Valkyrie Empire wanted to see. Inspection complete, announced the lead Valkyrie technician. All ships cleared for crew rotation and resupply. Admiral Thexver is requested at High Command for immediate debriefing. Captain Beek Jeong, who was wearing a holographic disguise that made her look like the dead admiral, nodded calmly. Understood. I will report to High Command within the hour. As the Valkyrie inspectors left, The 17 ships settled into their assigned docking bays. To all appearances, they were just another returning expedition fleet. Their crews would rest, resupply, and prepare for their next assignment, but these crews had a very different kind of next assignment in mind. Commander Nam Tae-young stepped out of his ship's airlock wearing the uniform of a Valkyrie engineering officer. Around him, the massive space station bustled with activity. Thousands of aliens moved through the corridors, conducting the business of an interstellar empire. None of them suspected that death had just docked at their station. "Team leaders, report," he said quietly into his communicator. "Engineering team in position," came the first reply. "We have access to the station's power grid." "Communications team ready?" came the second. "We can take control of all transmissions on your signal." "Security team standing by," reported the third. "Weapons are distributed and ready." Nam Tae-young nodded. Phase 1 of Operation Trojan Horse was complete. 17 ships carrying nearly 2,000 human operatives had successfully infiltrated the heart of the Valkyrie Empire. Now came Phase 2, the hardest part. All teams begin infiltration. Remember, we need to control this station completely before anyone realizes what's happening. No alarms, no warnings sent to other systems. We get one chance at this. Across the massive space station, humans began moving toward their assigned targets. They looked like Valkyrie officers and technicians, but they carried Earth's most advanced weapons and equipment. Some headed for the communication centers. Others moved toward the power generators. Still others made their way to the command centers, where the real Valkyrie leaders were making plans for their next conquest. Captain Baek Ji-young walked through the station's main corridor toward High Command. Other Valkyrie nodded respectfully as she passed. They saw Admiral Vexver, hero of 847 conquests. Returning from another successful campaign, they had no idea they were looking at Earth's agent of revenge. "High Command, this is Admiral Vexver." Reporting as ordered, she announced to the guards outside the main briefing room. "The Council is waiting for you, Admiral. Please proceed inside." Baek Ji-young stepped through the doors into a room full of the most powerful beings in the Valkyrie Empire. Military leaders who had conquered entire sectors of the galaxy. Politicians who controlled the fates of billions. Scientists who had developed weapons that could destroy stars. All of them were about to learn that they had made a terrible mistake when they decided to invade Earth. "Admiral Vexver," said the Supreme Commander of the Valkyrie military, "we are eager to hear your report on the conquest of System 847C. Our records show you encountered some unexpected resistance." Captain Baek Ji-young smiled. "Yes, Supreme Commander. The humans were indeed more resourceful than our intelligence suggested. But in the end, they proved to be just another primitive species that couldn't match the might of the Valkyrie Empire." It was exactly what they wanted to hear, and it would be the last lie they ever believed. The Supreme Commander of the Valkyrie Empire leaned forward in his chair, eager to hear details of humanity's defeat. Around the briefing table, other high-ranking officials waited with similar anticipation. The conquest of System 847C should have been routine, but the reports of resistance had been troubling. "Tell us, Admiral Vexver," said the Supreme Commander, "what was the nature of this unexpected resistance?" "Our scouts reported that the humans were completely primitive." Captain Baek Ji-young, still disguised as the dead admiral, stood calmly before the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Her holographic appearance was perfect. Her voice matched the real Vexverse exactly. But inside, she was counting down the seconds until Operation Trojan Horse reached its final phase. The humans had developed some crude defensive measures. She replied in flawless Valkyrie. "Hidden weapons. Cloaking technology? Nothing we couldn't handle, but it cost us more ships than expected." The Supreme Commander nodded. "And their planet?" "It has been secured for colonization?" "Completely, Supreme Commander. The human military has been destroyed. Their cities are under our control. The population is ready for processing." It was exactly what the Valkyrie leadership wanted to hear. Another world conquered. Another species defeated. Another victory for the Empire that had never known defeat. They had no idea that at that very moment, human teams were taking control of their space station. Commander Nam Tae-young moved through the station's engineering section with practiced confidence. His disguise was perfect. He looked like just another Valkyrie technician going about his duties. But in his hands, he carried a device that would change the course of galactic history. Engineering team in position, he whispered into his hidden communicator. Accessing main power grid now. The device he placed on the station's central power node was no bigger than his fist, but it contained technology that the Valkyrie Empire had never seen. Human engineers had spent years designing it based on captured alien systems. It would give them complete control over the station's power, communications, and life support. Power grid compromised, reported another team member. We can shut down any system on command. Across the massive station, similar scenes were playing out. Human operatives disguised as Valkyrie personnel were taking control of critical systems. One by one, communication arrays, weapon systems, computer networks, transportation hubs. The Valkyrie never suspected that their own security codes had been compromised months ago when Earth's computer experts cracked the systems on the captured scout ship. Agent Lim Yamin sat at a communication console in the station's main transmission center. To anyone watching, he looked like a bored Valkyrie operator monitoring routine traffic. In reality, he was preparing to send a message that would be heard across the entire galaxy. Communications team ready, he reported quietly. All outgoing. Transmissions under our control. We can broadcast on all frequencies when you give the signal. In the High Command briefing room, the Supreme Commander was reviewing tactical displays of the human solar system. The false data showed a broken, conquered world ready for exploitation. Excellent work, Admiral Dexver, he said with satisfaction. The humans' primitive weapons proved no match for Valkyrie's superiority. This conquest will serve as another example to any species that might consider resisting us. Captain Beek Jeong nodded respectfully. Indeed, Supreme Commander. Though I must admit, the humans showed surprising ingenuity for a primitive species. They had somehow reverse-engineered some of our technology from an old scout ship. This caused murmurs of concern around the table. The loss of the scout ship 37 years ago had been classified information. How did they obtain our technology? Demanded the intelligence director. One of our scout vessels crashed on their world decades ago, Beek Jeong replied calmly. They recovered it and spent years trying to understand our systems. Fortunately, their primitive minds could only grasp the most basic concepts. The Supreme Commander relaxed. Of course. Even with our technology, they remained inferior. As always, Valkyrie superiority prevailed. Yes, said Captain Beek Jeong with a smile that none of the Valkyrie understood. Superiority always prevails. She touched a hidden device on her uniform. The signal went out instantly. Across the space station. Human operatives received the message simultaneously. Operation Trojan Horse entered its final phase. The lights went out first. Every corridor, every room, every docking bay plunged into darkness as Commander Nam Tae-young's team shut down the main power grid. Emergency power kicked in a few seconds later, but by then it was too late. In the darkness, humans moved with perfect coordination. They had memorized the station's layout. They knew exactly where to go and what to do. Night vision equipment let them see while the Valkyrie stumbled in confusion. The communication center was the first target. Agent Lim Yamin and his team secured it within minutes, stunning the few Valkyrie operators with non-lethal weapons. Now all transmissions in and out of the station were under human control. Next came the weapon systems. Human technicians who had studied Valkyrie technology for months quickly disabled the station's defenses. The massive guns that protected the homeworld turned silent. Finally, the security stations. Valkyrie guards found themselves facing humans with advanced equipment and perfect knowledge of the station's security protocols. Most surrendered without firing a shot. In the High Command briefing room, the Supreme Commander and his staff sat in stunned silence as the lights flickered and died. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows on the walls. "What's happening?" demanded the Supreme Commander. "Report." But no reports came. The communication systems were down. The security monitors showed only static. For the first time in their lives, the leaders of the Valkyrie Empire were cut off from their own command structure. "Admiral Vexver," said the intelligence director, turning toward where the disguised human stood. "Your ship's communication systems, can you contact the fleet?" Captain Beek Jeong smiled and touched another control on her uniform. Her holographic disguise flickered and vanished, revealing her true human appearance. "I'm afraid Admiral Vexver can't come to the communicator right now," she said in perfect English. "He's indisposed, permanently." The Valkyrie leaders stared in shock. A human was standing in their most secure briefing room, in the heart of their empire, speaking their language and wearing their technology. "Impossible," whispered the Supreme Commander. "How did you get here? How did you infiltrate our station?" "The same way your people planned to infiltrate our world," Beek Jeong replied calmly, "except we did it better." Before any of the Valkyrie could react, the room's communication system activated. Agent Lim Yaman's voice came through the speakers. "In flawless Valkyrie. Attention, citizens of the Valkyrie Empire. This is Captain Lim Yamin of the Earth Defense Force. We have taken control of your central command station. Your military leadership is now under human authority." The message wasn't just playing in the briefing room. It was broadcasting across the entire Valkyrie home system. Every ship, every station, every planet was receiving the same transmission. "Your empire sent 2,000 ships to conquer our world," the message continued. "You believed we were primitive, defenseless, easy. Pray, you were wrong." The Supreme Commander lunged toward an emergency communication panel, but Captain Beek Jeong was faster. The stunner in her hand dropped him to the floor before he could raise an alarm. "Sit down," she told the remaining Valkyrie officials calmly. "The message isn't finished yet." Agent Lim Yaman's voice continued the broadcast. "Of your 2,000 ships, only 17 returned to your space. But they didn't bring the news you expected, they brought us." On ships throughout the Valkyrie home system, crews watched in growing panic as the transmission revealed the truth. The human solar system hadn't been conquered. The invasion fleet hadn't returned in victory. They had been destroyed, and their 17 surviving ships had been captured and used to infiltrate the heart of the Empire. "The people of Earth want you to know something," Lim Yaman's voice said calmly. "We don't conquer worlds, we liberate them. Every species you have enslaved, every world you have destroyed, every life you have taken, we remember all of it." Dr. Kwon Minju's voice joined the transmission from Earth. "This is Dr. Kwon Minju of the Human Science Council. For 30 years, we have studied your technology, your tactics, and your weaknesses. We know everything about your empire. We know which worlds want to be free. We know which of your own people are tired of conquest. We know how to help them." The Valkyrie leadership in the briefing room listened in growing horror as the humans revealed the scope of their infiltration. It wasn't just one space station. 17 ships had meant 17 different infiltration teams, spreading across 17 different systems simultaneously. "You came to our solar system expecting an easy victory," continued Dr. Kwon Minju. "Instead, you gave us the tools we needed to reach the stars. Your ships, your technology, your star charts. Thank you for the generous donation." Captain Oh Seung-jin's voice joined the broadcast from another captured Valkyrie facility. "This is Captain Oh Seung-jin reporting from Valkyrie Military Command. Station Beta, we have secured their strategic database. All fleet positions,